Hello everybody, welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 with me, Matt, your host. This is actually my first attempt at recording a audio and video project for Microsoft Flight Simulator, so let's see how it goes. Today we are in the Kodiak 100, which is a rugged bush plane with a turboprop engine featuring 750 plus horsepower. So we're going to take today a hop from KTTN Trenton Mercer to JY73 Red Line Airport, both obviously in New Jersey. It is the early morning, so let's hop on board and get this started here. Of course, first thing we're going to do is close up our plane here. And that's the one thing about the Kodiak you have to remember. You always have to close the bottom door before the top door, of course, silly me. But yeah, we'll go ahead and lock that. Then we'll hop up on front here. Close our passenger door, of course. Interesting enough, the Kodiak 100 model is a fairly high detailed study level simulation of the real plane. This model was done off of the CAD designs by the software developers who made this, and it is an officially licensed plane for the simulator, which I find quite fascinating. So our next step is we're going to turn our fuel control on there for the firewall shutoff. We're going to flip on our fuel shutoff switches for the left and the right wing tank. Going to come down here and cheat a little bit. Remove the flight yoke for a second there to get easier access to these panels. And we're going to go ahead and flip on our master for our Garmin G1000 glass cockpit. Quite a nice setup. This is the NXI unit, so it's a little bit more advanced. Alright, now that we got our masters on, let's go ahead and arm our beacon here, and that way people will know, and our nav lights, that we are getting ready to fire this machine up. We're also going to turn on our pitot static port heaters so that we get correct airspeed information and other various tidbits of information we'll need for the flight. Just in case it's super cold out, we're going to go ahead and put our prop pitch to full forward. We're going to not enable the fuel mixture at this point, but we will go ahead and turn on our avionics bus and our auxiliary bus. We'll leave our climate controls off for the minute. Let's go ahead and initiate a startup for this. So I'm going to turn the auxiliary fuel pump on. Stand by. Rotate the starter. And get this bird going. Waiting for the NG to rise. Preferably above 20. We'll introduce low idle RPM for fuel here. And look for a good light off. We're going to be watching the values here, make sure nothing goes into the red. The torque, the interstage turbine temperature, make sure that doesn't go too hot in Celsius. And we're waiting for the engine to stabilize. And then we can call that a good start. Alright, very well. Perfect. So now that that's good, we'll drop our starter off, turn our generator on and our alternator so we don't lose our battery. We'll also initiate our strobe lights and our taxi lights. And then now that we have a solid running engine, go ahead and set up our PFD, also known as primary flight display. We'll go ahead and start our timer. And then we'll come down to the transponder and put us right now on altimeter mode so that the air traffic controllers can see where we are. Our transponder is on 1200. That is a standard US frequency for general aviation. non-IFR, of course, instrument flight rules. And we're going to go ahead and reach up top here, get some weather information from ATIS.
Trenton Airport information, Sierra 1100 Zulu. Wind 28217. Visibility, niner. Sky condition, ceiling 2,300 feet broken. Temperature, 15. Dew point, 13. Altimeter 29.92. ILS runway 6 in use.
We're looking for 2992 and ILS 6 runway. So that means we'll be using runway 6. I'm going to go ahead and make sure. Yep, as you can see, we're on 29.92. And I'm going to line our heading bug up for runway 060, so that in the event we want to travel out on runway heading after we lift off, we'll just stay on heading course 060 with the autopilot for staying in front of the plane in the flight so that we don't get behind. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to head down to the, that out of the way, we'll head down to the GPS and we will program in our destination to our Garmin avionics here. We're going to go J, Y, 73 for red line in Vincenttown, New Jersey. 22.9 miles at a bearing of 185. We'll go ahead and activate that. And you can see now our secondary flight display has a path. We're going to be following that magenta line, trying to stay as clear of that purple and blue airspace, because the blue to the top right is Philadelphia International, and of course we don't want to go near the military installation there, KWRI. So we're going to fly right down that center corridor. Anywho, with that set up, we're going to head over to our altimeter panel, and we're just going to add a little bit of altitude in here for a reasonable cruising altitude. We'll initiate about, say, 3,500 feet. Looks good to me. No alerts on our message board. And we can turn our flight yoke back on. We're going to check left, right. We're going to push forward on the yoke, pull back, take the parking brakes off, and then we'll check left rudder, right rudder. Everything's free and clear and correct. So we're going to go ahead and throw a couple notches of flaps in here. Go ahead and close up our window access port there. And we are ready to ask for clearance. Turn the landing lights and the taxi lights on, just so the other aircraft can see us. Because we are flying today in real-time online mode. This game operates off of Bing Maps, so everything that you see is an accurate satellite image of Trenton all the way through the Delaware River, anywhere you want. It's a one-to-one scale of the entire world. So, with that in mind, we are flying with other players online today. I have the nameplates on so that it doesn't cloud the screen, but there are other players in this world with us at the moment. Anywho, so we'll go back to air traffic control, and we will ask for permission to taxi out for a straight departure.
Trenton ground, November 271 Kilo, Quebec, with Tango request taxi for takeoff departing straight out.
November 271 Kilo, Quebec taxi to and hold short of runway 6 using taxiway cross runway 16 Bravo Alpha. Contact tower on 120.7 when ready.
So we acknowledge that.
Taxi to and hold short runway 6 via taxiway cross runway 16 Bravo Alpha 1 Kilo, Quebec.
So there we are on the ramp. We are going to taxi out to 6 via their instructions. And we are just about ready to go. So, let's get this show on the road, shall we? The Kodiak 100, which we're in today, is definitely an extremely powerful turboprop aircraft. It has a super low stall speed and relatively high cruise speed as well, so you get the best of both worlds with this machine, of course. Of course, the real one is quite expensive. I believe they base model for approximately 2.1 million or even more. Quite an aircraft this size to have. 750 shaft horsepower here, so we're going to make the most of it out of Trenton today. We're going to take the proper departure procedures, of course. Make this as real as it gets, which ironically is the catchphrase of Microsoft Flight Simulator. So, guess we're in the right place at the right time, huh? Want to make quick and cross this active runway. We're going to make a left down here and continue our taxiing out to 6. And again, I'd like to thank you for checking out this video. Hopefully the quality from my first time is not appallingly bad, but we do the best we can. Okay. Looks like there's another plane in front of us there, so I'm going to part ways with him since he was in front of us. He or she, whoever it may be. I'm sure another player. Since they are taxiing on that runway, they're probably heading to the parking stand. But you never know. This is online, so anything can happen. Get down to 6 here and cut this map off. Come to a stop, and I will get ready to call air traffic control on tower frequency 120.7. Let them know we are ready to go. Before we do that, I will do a brief run up on the engines just to verify that everything is okay. I will pull the flight idle power to full. Watch the gauges for a fully functional engine. Of course, your torque is on your top in the center. Your interstage turbine temperature in Celsius is in the gauge below that. Currently reading 530. And our propeller RPM, 2200. We've got good fuel quantities. Good oil temperatures, good pressures. Looks as though we are ready for a good flight. Let's call clearance.
Trenton Tower, November 271 Kilo, Quebec, ready for departing straight out at runway 6.
November 271 Kilo, Quebec altimeter 29er.9er, 2 wind 282
We already know that.
Straight out, departure approved. Cleared for takeoff,
good to
runway
go.
6.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 61 Kilo, Quebec.
Quite a bright sunrise, but that should not be a factor. And let's run it up. Should be good to go. Of course, we'll try to maintain centerline as best as possible. The thing with these super high horsepower single engine rotating propellers is that they create a lot of force, so it has a tendency to push you to a direction. That's not always advantageous when you're trying to steer straight down a runway, of course. I'm going to go ahead and make that right hand turn, pull up a degrees of flaps, climb out at about 90 knots. Move all the flaps. Now that we've got a successful takeoff, I'm gonna pull the propeller pitch down to about 2,000 RPM. Reduce ourselves in a little bit more of a climb situation with a little less power, less stress on the engine, means less bills at the maintenance shop. We'll trim ourselves out for level flight. And we're just going to go ahead and mosey on down our magenta line here. So we're at 1,860 feet and climbing over the Delaware. I'm going to go ahead and say vertical speed up 1,000 feet a minute. We're going to go ahead and track the navigation bug, pull us onto autopilot for our magenta line over to red line. That way we can gaze out the window as the plane flies its course. Of course, we're going to acknowledge her. We're going to tell her thank you very much.
Trenton Tower, November 271 Kilo.
We are going to turn on our climate control settings so that we have some fresh air coming through here. Okay, now the plane is flying itself here. Move that stick for a second. We're going to go ahead and move the landing lights and the taxi lights here. And take a look out the window there. Of course, that's Trenton off to our left, but we are heading into the clouds. So let's go ahead and just go on and level off right here. Quite a foggy day out here. Well, that's okay. Of course, everybody knows the famous bridge Trenton makes and the world takes. Just flew past that. For argument's sake, since we're visual flight rules here and we're not flying on a flight plan, let's go ahead and lower our altitude down a little bit here to 2,000 feet. That way we can see a little bit more of the scenery. We're going to vertical speed down, 500 feet a minute. Make that 800 feet. course, that bridge that you may see over there, that is the Bristol Bridge in Burlington County. There we go. Much better vision now. Go ahead and take a look at our map. You can see it lets us know how the topography is going, whether we are clear, goes from green to yellow to red, obviously red meaning imminent height issues for clearance. Quite a few airports there. You see in the top right of the navigation GPS screen, we've got KVAY, that's South Jersey Regional. We've got McGuire to our top left, and almost center, we've got November 14, that's Flying W in Lumberton, which I've actually flown in and out of several times in the past when I used to take flying lessons. I like their pool they have there. I don't know if it's still there, but it used to be in the shape of an airplane. Cool place, though. So as you can see, we are coming up to red line. It's a very short flight with this plane because of the speed that we're able to achieve here. So let's go ahead and get red line on the hook here, Unicom 122.8, general aviation frequency. We're going to say we're coming in on a 2-3 approach.
Juliet Yankee 73 traffic November 271 Kilo Quebec 10 miles north 2,000 feet inbound to land runway 23.
Okay, and what I'm doing now is just going to set this heading bug up for heading 230. That will sort of help me visualize which direction the runway is going. Alright, we're good now. Really good. So, not that this plane can do it, but one thing that you always have to remember is below 10,000 feet, there is a speed limit for 250 knots or below. You always want to make sure you never exceed that limit. Anyhow, taxi lights and landing lights armed. I'm gonna go ahead and pull plane here out of autopilot. Get rid of the altitude switch, and we'll also get rid of the yaw damper switch. And we're just going to fly this bird in by hand. Go. So we shall set our propeller pitch to full power, just in case we have to do a go-around on a botched landing attempt. Adjust our view there a little bit. Yeah, a little bumpy. Currently 3.7 miles from the airport, which is at bearing 180 Not much traffic here. So I used to take my lessons out of this airport many moons ago. So we're going to announce that we are on final.
Juliet Yankee
I would
73,
also
traffic
add to that in the
November
real world that I
271
was on a
Quebec,
2-mile final.
runway 23 to land.
We are in the white arc on the speed there, so I'm going to go ahead and start throwing flaps in. Swing a little bit wide there to bleed off some extra altitude. Directly into the sun. Of course, that doesn't help either, but that's okay. We're only 1.3 miles away, so no worries there. Got our full flaps in, and we are ready for final approach. And there's our runway. This was always an interesting approach because you would have to come in super low, and it would go right over that road. Everything's looking good, right on track. Speed's looking fine. Float over the trees. And come in for a final flare. Nice and easy on the touchdown. We're going to roll out to the end of the runway. Not going to be needing any reverse pitch on the propeller today to assist us in our slowdown. It's a funny story, that house back there to the left, about the 11 o'clock, I remember that guy used to have, in real life, a, I believe it was a Pit Special 2-wing airplane, propeller piston driven, and he used to come in and do all these crazy stunts and stuff, and I used to remember, it was quite a show. Don't know if the guy's still there, but he used to do some pretty extraordinary stuff at some pretty low altitudes through this airport, so God bless that fella. We'll come to a stop up here, and we'll clean the airplane up after we get her parked, and then we'll shut it down, and hopefully that'll conclude a successful, at least slightly entertaining video. I'm hoping. Of course, I'd like you to hopefully have enjoyed the video with Matthew Air today. And as we're pulling in here, just gonna go ahead and cut across this grass because the airplanes used to always sit on these grassy fields here. I guess they use those mostly for the tarmacs and red line instead of actual concrete tie-down pad spots, but that's okay. Alright, now that we're in place, let's go ahead and throw the parking brake on. Remove our yoke again. Cut off our taxi. Cut off our landing lights. Pitot heat off. Strobe off. Nav and beacon off. We'll go ahead and move our standby auxiliary fuel pump. We'll remove our climate control. Bring the flaps up to clean. The auxiliary. Get some fresh air in here, huh? We'll get rid of the avionics bus, and then we'll bring our propeller pitch back to idle, or pitch and we will remove fuel from the engine. Get rid of our master avionics there. And we have arrived at Redline. So like I said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for stopping by, checking it out, and hopefully there'll be more content in the future. Have a great day. See ya!